Welcome back, guys and girls. Today's video is going to be installing a remanufactured alternator on my 2000 Dodge Dakota Sport, which is a 4x4 with a 4.7 liter V8. So you will need a 15 millimeter socket, a 13 millimeter socket, a 10 millimeter socket, and when you are taking loose the serpentine belt, there's not a lot of room in there. It's not bad, but you don't want a ratchet that's really long. You can do it with a wrench, but I just do it with the ratchet. Anyway, the 3/8 ratchets that I have that are Craftsman are just about the right length, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. There's some, I think it's refrigerant lines for the air conditioner that are kind of in the way, and if you get any longer, it's hard to actually be able to move the tensioner to get the belt off. So anyway, those are the tools you need. Pretty simple. Thankfully, on these engines, the alternator is right on top of the engine. So first, let's check out this alternator. O'Reilly's AutoZone. They wanted $185 plus a $40 core charge, plus tax, of course. I got this one. It's a reman. It's a 136 amp alternator. I got it from Rock Auto. It's a wholesaler closeout, so it only has a 30-day warranty, but it was $41.79. Now, I opened it up and I've removed some of the packing inside. It was very well packed. Everything looks nice. It's nice and clean. It came with the pulley. I don't see, any damage at all. It looks like they did a real good job as far as cleaning, re-insulating, everything. So there's that. Came with all the instructions that you would need. It tells you what to look for. It tells you about voltage drop on your cables, your negative cable, your positive cable. If it's more than a 1/4 volt, replace them. It tells you about checking the external regulator. And then there was something here that was interesting. I've never seen one of these. Hopefully you can see that. This is the computer printout for this actual alternator and what it tested at. And one of the things I found interesting was it says alternator turn on speed 1800 RPMs. And then here it goes through your amperage at RPMs, and it actually showed this alternator made 170 amps at 6,000 RPM. Hopefully we don't see 6,000 RPM in this truck very often, or something's probably wrong. So anyway, let's get to the install. Okay, so one thing to note is if you have ran your engine and it is warm, this right here will be super hot, and you have to get to that bolt right there. Never fails. You're in there reaching, turning that, and you will rub up against this and it will burn you. So if your engine's hot, gloves are recommended. The alternator might be a little toasty too, especially since it sits right on top of the engine. Now, right down there is the idler, or the tensioner, I guess we will call it. Right over here are those lines I was telling you about. So when you reach down in here, you've got quite a bit of room. Let me take that extension off of there. I do not need that for that. I hate it when that happens. Okay, I picked that up off the ground. What's even worse than that is when you drop something or knock it off and your tool falls down in your skid plate. Then you have to remove the skid plate, or if you're lucky, you can get a flashlight, see with one eye, and reach up in there with some kind of magnet. So right here, is what I was talking about. There is enough room to get a shorter ratchet in there, but if you get a longer ratchet, you're going to be hitting on the body over there, and so this works out pretty good. So anyway, we pull that, we take the belt off right there on the alternator. So let me get you guys up on the tripod and I will get to work. Specifically, but you have one bolt here, 13mm socket takes it out. One bolt in the front down here where I showed you the coolant neck, that's a 15mm socket. One bolt over here, that's 15mm socket. Your 10mm takes that off. You unplug this, and that's all it is. Pretty simple. I've worked on a hell of a lot worse. Nothing like those front-wheel drive cars where you have to take out the passenger side inner fender or something along that lines just to get to something. All right. So the belt is off. Always make note of how the belt, the serpentine belt, is routed, especially if you don't have a diagram. I do have a diagram over here, but if in doubt, take photos. Might save your butt later. Alternator doesn't care which way it runs, clockwise, counterclockwise, but some of the other accessories do. So now all my bolts are good because I took them out earlier this week. I have a video where this exact alternator quit charging and I did what we are calling a redneck rebuild on it. It was very simple and it made to where that alternator was usable, and it got me through this week until the reman was delivered. So if you're interested in that, check it out. It's on my channel. So in that process, I already removed all these bolts, cleaned them up with a wire brush so that this would be easier, and I wanted to see what was wrong with it. But I can take that hot cable, I can poke it right over here in that spot right there. It stays good, and I don't have to mess with resetting everything. I can drop this new one right back in this spot. Okay. I can start all the All right, so that nut on this alternator is a 12mm. So you might need a 12mm also. So that is on there. We will put the cover back on it. We will plug in our regulator wiring. All right, now all I have to do is tighten it back up and put the serpentine belt back on. That one is tight. Alternator is reinstalled, just need to hook up the belt. It's important when you put a serpentine belt back on that it is properly in the grooves, especially down on the crankshaft pulley, because it's easy for it to be one groove off, and it will run that way, but it will chew your belt up eventually. So, and it never fails, when you go to try to pick one of these up, it wants to fall off of something. So, looks like we're still on everything. I'm going to move the tensioner again. Okay. Everything looks lined up. All right, it's on there. So